My name is Joy, and I am a compulsive eater. I'm gratefully abstinent today because I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the Gray Sheet with the help of my sponsor and God and all of you over the years, and I am very grateful. That is the one word that I will probably have been thinking about today. Well, most days. It's the one word that was not in my vocabulary prior to Gray Sheet. I came in through Alcoholics Anonymous in 2002. The problem with all of this is that it's been a long time, and I'm 71. I'm just, so I've got a long story. I'm going to try to make it brief and somewhat coherent. One of my sponsees in another program told me the other day, well, last year, that I have ADHD. Like I sort of, I guess that, but that's okay. I've lived with it this long. Let's see what happened, what it was like, and what it's like now. I grew up in an alcoholic home, tried to blame them for all my woes. I made heavy going of life. I probably was just plain miserable. And like I said, never, ever grateful. I did not know what that meant. There was a God in my life. I went to church, but I don't know. It was the kind that, boy, if I misstepped, if I made a mistake, it would be a rug pulled out. That was my conception of God for a long time. And it's through working the steps of this program, because we are instructed to find that power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. And that's particularly on my mind because of a big book step study meeting I went to last night where we were reading in We Agnostics. But getting back to the food, drugs and alcohol brought me into Alcoholics Anonymous, pretty obviously. But when I was introduced at about 8 years sober to GreySheeters Anonymous is when, I really felt catapulted into that fourth dimension. I looked back and the babysitting stories, I could relate to those. I just, like, my eyes were open. That was, I couldn't stop eating. And I was always aware that there weren't enough, my grandfather would make those things out of a griddle. There weren't enough of them. I remember thinking that when I was a child. There just wasn't enough. I was uh, going along in my life and found cigarettes and other drugs that would curb my appetite. But food was food, and I guess sugar, whatever, was my probably my earliest drug. I also fell in love with reading, and I could escape. So, I came into the program. I was living a life, trying to be an adult, trying to do the best I could, but I'd never enjoyed it. I did not understand the gift of grace, the gift of life. And even though some crazy things are happening in our world today, it's really not unlike anything that has gone on in the past, my opinion. And I'll read this. When we became alcoholics, this is on page 53, and We Agnostics, and my book was open to this. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? That really became very evident to me at my first Gray Sheet meeting. And I've been abstinent ever since. It was brought to us down here in Northeast Tennessee by a Gray Sheeter that some of you still know or knew. Um, um, oh gosh, well, my mind has just gone blank. I'll think of it. But anyway, she came down from, and she's passed now, and she came down from Chicago, and all I heard was weighing and measuring 3 meals a day with nothing in between. Of course, it was a God thing getting to that first meeting. It wasn't very big. And I heard those words, and I, had one thought here that said, whoa, that's ridiculous. That's way too hard. 3 meals a day. But, I was so far, that was like such a foreign concept. And then the other side, which I choose to call God, just said, that's just exactly what you need. Simple. There's no mystery in the gray sheet. She showed it to me. I still have my original one that she gave me. And, it's all the things. I'm a nurse by profession and trade. I worked at that. I knew about nutrition. I knew that I had, so many of those round things, whatever they could be. I was 50, almost 50 years old, and it was time. This was it. A self-imposed crisis. I didn't think it was self-imposed, but it definitely was a crisis. I really had been at many points in my life. I didn't want to go on. I did not want to live the way I was living. I could not eat. I couldn't really live my life, and it was, it was pretty yucky. I'm going to fast forward to today. I want to tell you that I was just in Edinburgh and Northern England in the Lake District just a couple of weeks ago, and very close to some of you. I never went to a meeting over there, but how beautiful it was that I could pack up my abstinence and go. I was with a whole bunch of people that don't understand. They don't have to eat the way I do, and that's perfectly fine. There are many people who don't need to. I mean, they might need to, but they don't. They don't want to. And again, this is, I went home from that very first meeting, and there's the name, Doreen. Doreen. Um, she said I could call her and commit my food, but she gave me another woman's name and number, and to commit my food. And she took me by the side. I really don't think she spent more than 5 minutes with me with the gray sheet, and said, well, you probably have this in your cabinet. Everybody has this, and you probably know what it is: canned fish and a can of vegetables. Everybody has you can eat that, and you have a certain amount of fat and whatever. And I just did it. I've done it through surgeries, through the deaths of both my parents. Well, my father, my mother had died previously, and she was only 67. So, and I'm pretty much a chip of the old block. My sister and I both. And my sister is abstinent too. So that's sort of fun. About 2 weeks ago, I went up to be with her because she was having foot surgery. And when you have foot surgery, as some of you may know, you have to keep your foot above your head. You're not supposed to get up for anything except for going to the bathroom. And so I was up there to help her. And I think so. She's having a little struggle. But I've been through so many surgeries. All my structure has been replaced. My hip and my knees. But I never missed a beat. I'd wake up from anesthesia, at least so far, wake up from anesthesia and say, "Get my fruit, my breakfast," or whatever, and thank you, Joel. "Get my breakfast." I'm like, "I'm gonna show you." I don't know, but I've been fortunate, and I mean, I've had my back operated on, I have had a hip replacement, and then I feel like these joints, and it's mostly arthritis. I'm still very active, I say that, but I mean, active for my age, I guess, and I'm grateful. I was just, uh, let me say my relationships, when I got to GreySheeters Anonymous, I'd been married for a few years. My husband, John, is my fourth marriage, my fourth husband. Well, fourth marriage, but only third husband because I had to marry one of them twice because I'm an addict and didn't work the first time. But and I'm his fifth wife. We have been married for over 30 years. And and that's, it's just it's a wonderful miracle that I have that relationship. When my daughter was 6 months old and she's about to turn 40 this year, um, I left her at a home because I was going into treatment. And I I have a relationship with her today. It's pretty typical mom-daughter one, she gets mad at me pretty easily. But this past Friday night, I took my 13-year-old granddaughter on her first backpacking trip, and just an overnight into the woods up here, and she survived. I did too. She never complained. And I have two grandchildren, and I've taken them hiking, and I'll just say my granddaughter and my grandson have funny stories, and they say things like I'll say, "Hey, do you want to go for a walk?" And my grandson will say, "Don't let her fool you. She means hike." And so, it's just sweet, sweet stories. And my granddaughter, well, there were five of us in this shelter, and she was listening to all of us say how we slept last night, and then most of us are older, and one was a snorer, but and we had just chatted, and then my granddaughter said, "Don't worry, you all snored, and I have it on video." So, typical shit, on their phones. And I mean, I won't even get into all that. Thank God for cell phones today and Zoom. Um, I'm 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 just thrilled to be with you all. I'm sure I hope I said, you know, I guess I said what I needed to say. Um, when Joel was taught, or when Serenity, and thank you for chairing Serenity, good for you. Um, when Serenity was, I guess, saying safety statement, and I think of, well, my first ever gray sheet meeting and the first few AA meetings. Did I feel safe? Well, I felt a calmness. I guess I didn't want to feel safe because I was entering very unknown territory. So, we can't be safe all the time. It was a real jumping off point for me, and I'm glad that I didn't run back to that security of insanity, the four horsemen, and the misery that I was living. And I'm going to leave that as it is. I live in Northeast Tennessee. I'm on Eastern time. Love you, Sarah. Thanks for asking me. And that's all I got. Thanks.